Today is Saturday, December 27th, and I was messing around with my car the day after Christmas, what I call the Christmas effing miracle, and because I finally got the car to run correctly without sputtering and stuff. But I'll show you what I did now that everything's quiet in here. It's cool out after the rain, heavy rain, before I go to Walmart and stuff. But essentially what I did was I replaced a bunch of hoses in there for the turbo and stuff, and suddenly the engine's health actually improved quite a bit. And believe it or not, this car actually has two vacuum systems, vacuum line systems. One of them is for the turbo system, which this is a 97 850 T5, the T being turbo. And the other one is for the, I believe, for the engine management fuel system. This over here is a good example of a older hose right here, as you can tell. It's got the yellow stripe under and stuff, and the original clamps. And you can see the end of this hose here. It's in really bad deteriorated shape. And so what happens is after a while, these hoses, they naturally start to collapse. Here's a good example right here. As these hoses stress and flex, they start to develop cracks and stuff, and they start to be able to retain their vacuum and stuff, or they collapse under pressure. Here's another hose right over here. This over here is one of the hoses that actually did collapse. You can see I can collapse it with my fingers and stuff and squeeze it, versus this is the same. This right here is supposed to be the same size hose as over here. This over here, even with a better finger, it's not that easy to collapse and stuff. This over here is the same bright yellow hose over here. I'm sorry, the hose with the yellow stripe. And believe it or not, there is, on this vacuum tree over here, one of these ports actually goes to the one of these ports. Well, the black hose is supposed to go this way, but it's wrapped around. It's too long. This hose right here is actually going to the fuel pressure regulator right over here, and then this other hose right here is the one that actually goes to the. This actually goes to the turbo gauge inside to tell you when your turbo gauge is boosting in that. And this bottom hose right here is actually going to the evap canister system, which is actually this little device right here with the check valve in here and stuff, which I really can't see right now. And I don't have the rest of it hooked up, but this over here is an electrically pulsed pulsator, which controls the air volume into the engine. And this over here actually goes back to the boost control solenoid on the turbo. And I don't really have it. I have it wired correctly, but I don't have anything all back and tucked away because I was just doing various experiments with stuff. But this down here is the new the control valve is the original one, but the clamps and the hoses are new. And that's one 3 dots right there. But I'll show you later on when I run it. But so far the engine, it runs pretty darn idle. It runs pretty smooth. And last night I just idled a little bit. I can't do too much to it because it's still on jack stands, but I managed to run it for about a good 20 to 30 minutes, and after about 25 minutes it finally got up to the correct temperature and the fan kicked on. And believe it or not, this over here in the corner over here, I managed to tighten the clamp on the coolant hose, and it was able to hold pressure. But for right now I just have the water in there until I replace the partially leaking radiator. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll show you a demo later on when I start it. Alright.